What's up, everybody? I'm here with Jackson Furrow. He's the Gaming and Esports Manager at Red Bull in Canada. And he's joining us today to tell us about his path here, starting back in, I believe it was 2012, at the University of Toronto was your first foray into esports.
Yeah.
And so let's jump right into it. Like, how did you first find out about esports? Were you always playing video games? What was that introduction for you?
Yeah. So I think I started playing computer games when I was like in seventh grade, something like that. So I'd have been like 12, maybe a little bit earlier. I was playing Counter-Strike 1.6 with some friends, and Diablo 2 were like the two games that I played. And the guys that I played with, like my good friends' older brothers, were pretty hardcore into 1.6. So they actually were doing like IM scrims and like using IRC and just all these like things that don't exist anymore. But
Yeah,
I remember watching HLTV matches of like complexity, and they're really actually being esports things going on way back then.
yeah,
Didn't really know what they were. Um, had seen like competitive gaming stuff around. Also played a lot of WoW, and there's like arenas and stuff that were happening.
sure.
But when League of Legends came out and it started blowing up was when I kind of really had it blow up around me, and I was interested in it. And I thought it was really cool.
Sure.
So I did some. I think I saw this video on Reddit or whatever, and it was a translated, like subtitled video about this guy who wanted to be. He was a music idol in
Mm-hmm.
Korea, and he wanted to become a pro StarCraft player.
Wow.
So they kind of followed him in like his journey to become a pro, where they would like take him to the team house and the practice facility, and then like build him up to actually go play on stage, which was really cool. So I saw what had already been established in Korea as what was happening in North America was starting to pop off in Europe.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just went from there and learned and looked at other games and grew as the scene grew in League specifically. So
Yeah.
it was hype.
Yeah, that's awesome. They certainly were definitely pretty far ahead of us over here in North America. We were a little slow, but I always love hearing about that. I remember hearing something in with Dota, or it might have been StarCraft over in like China or South Korea. One of their World Cup teams basically like got hyped up because by them like bringing in professional gamers before the World Cup one year, and that
Nice.
just it blows my mind. It's like that's just so far ahead, and we're starting to see that over here in the States, with
And
athletes
Canada.
getting in on it. Yes, absolutely. The forgotten Northern brother. Um, but yeah, so then you went to University of Toronto, and you started a club there.
So the club existed when I was at school, and I don't even remember why, but I was just like Googling League of Legends at U of T or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I joined the club with my buddy Carlo, who's still a homie to this day. He like convinced me to sign up.
Shout outs to
Um,
Carlo.
Shout outs to Carlo. And we just got involved with this club, and they were doing like viewing parties for Worlds, or they would do like online community matches every week, whatever, and they give
Yeah,
some RP, like that type of thing. And I just jumped in, and like I really wanted to shoutcast at the time. So I started running events that I could shoutcast. So just kind of trying to like build off of what was available, and then just did more and more and more, and was like super passionate about it. Loved it. We had some really cool opportunities, like Wild Turtle, who's from Toronto, who's like a big name LCS player.
yeah.
We got to do his fan meet at U
That's
of T,
cool.
and had like so many people come by, and we were like making frozen drinks with blenders and selling them for like $2 to try and cover the rental costs. Um, so yeah, just got involved and just kept pushing it and just kept going, and wanted to find more and more opportunities to do cool stuff, and kind of mirror what was being done in the States, but maybe do it better. Just kind of push whatever we could forward.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that about Wild Turtle. That's
Yeah.
that's super cool.
Yeah, there's some good photos of me on Facebook of like me interviewing him when I look so much younger and like smaller. It's cool.
I love it. I love it. So okay, so you were doing League of Legends over there. You were doing some commentating and a little bit of organizing. So then what happens? Like you graduate from college. What happens next? Were you like I'm sticking with esports, or were you kind of looking at other more traditional routes?
Yeah, I actually never graduated university. I dropped
Okay.
out after like a year or so. Just wasn't. I was studying English, and
Yeah.
um, I don't know, it just wasn't really for me. So different
Sure.
story. But um, so I started doing. I made some connections in the scene from doing these events. Had a
Yeah.
couple opportunities to like work at IEM when it came to Toronto. So I was just like a
That's awesome.
glorified babysitter. Like I would follow
Sure.
these like StarCraft 2 players around to make sure that they would be um, okay and could get to the bathroom and back to stage on time and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that was really cool. And then just kind of would find myself meeting the same people, working with the same people over the years as like bigger opportunities came up. Like we would go to Montreal to commentate the league tournament for LAN ETS, which is a
Yeah.
big, still is a big event in Canada, and kind of just built a network of people. And there was an opportunity to help work at a company when it was just starting called Media XP, and I was lucky enough to be one of the guys that was kind of invited as the whole thing kicked off. And I still had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Um,
Yeah.
I knew how to like lug tables and chairs and like throw some computers on them that we got people to bring from home, like just whatever. Um, but I was passionate and had learned about a lot about the scene, and kind of also gave myself to it fully. I was lucky enough to have a job that was super flexible, and I could kind of just do whatever and whenever things were needed.
Yeah.
So I did that, and just kind of grew with the company. So as they grew, it was largely production and broadcast, but we would also do tournaments and events. We did GOML, so getting to work on big things like that and just learn through experience was great. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was the next step.
Yeah. That's great. Fantastic. So then you were at Media XP for 3 years?
Yeah, it would have been close to 3 years.
Okay. Fantastic. So um, you're learning a lot there. And then what brings you over to Red Bull, which is where you are now?
So I was lucky enough to know it's a little bit of a perfect timing kind of opportunity
Yeah.
where I had just finished doing EGLX, where it was like by and far the biggest event that I had ever done, and it was a ton of responsibility, and I learned so much.
Yeah.
And then had the opportunity to come onto Red Bull once somebody in my world had stepped down, and they were kind of looking for the right person that could jump in and not only work in esports, but also would do well in the world of Red Bull, and like was interested in more than just gaming, and
Sure.
could relate things that I'm all passionate about, like music, into gaming, or all that type of stuff. And obviously it's an amazing opportunity, especially as somebody who didn't go to school, to
Yeah.
be fortunate enough to like kind of get legitimized by having such an incredible job like that.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's the same thing like starting at Red Bull. I've learned so goddamn much. It's
Yeah.
been really life changing
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. That's incredible. I like it. It's just up and up and up and up.
so
Um,
far.
so far. But yeah, I mean, we're still going strong through COVID.
Yeah, that's true.
Looking ahead. But yeah, just taking a step back. You mentioned like you did EGLX.
Hmm.
It sounds like you were kind of all over the place. You learned like
Yeah.
you learned production, you learned organizing, you learned just like everything as a whole. Do you think there's something that you could that let me try and think of how to phrase this. It basically sounds like you got a piece of everything. Was there anything that like stuck out and you were like, oh, I like this aspect, or were there aspects that you were like, I don't know that I want to do this? Like, how did you kind of choose a direction because there's so many routes to go?
Yeah, it's really tough, especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
How do you decide what you want to do, right? I had some good advice one time that was like, if you ever find somebody that's way smarter than you,
yeah,
just try and learn as much as you can from them. And that was really my whole MO when I was there, was just like learn as much as I can from the people that are clearly super smart. So
and
I
that's why I
learned,
have you here today.
yeah, exactly. I learned a lot from the production guys that were still to this day are phenomenal at what they do and are geniuses.
Yeah,
I still don't know, you know, a 5% of what they know, probably even less than that. But knew enough to like understand what was going on. Um, Same thing for any sort of like project management, whatever. Um, I think that I knew that I wasn't going to be like a tech person. I
sure.
definitely love elements of production. One thing that I'd like to learn myself one day is just more about lighting and how to design like a light show. I think that's such a cool creative process. So
Yeah,
I love the production back end. I think it's super awesome. Um, but I also knew that I sucked at like my math has always been pretty bad. So any sort of like bracketology or like tournament operations in like a behind the scene tournament ops thing, I
yeah,
knew wasn't going to be good for me.
sure.
Um, it's hard for me to like track changes in schedules and brackets and formats and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
I just kind of tried the things that made sense, that kind of aligned with my strengths, and just kind of went through trial and error to see what I liked. And even if I did something poorly or not to the best of my ability the first time, I would try it again, and I'd be a lot better at it the second time, having gone through all those mistakes. So
yeah,
um, yeah, I think I just kind of I went with my strengths, and then have tried to grow to what that role should be.
yeah. That's awesome, and that's really important. You talk about like you tried something the first time and then you tried again and you just
Hmm.
got better. I mean, that's I feel like that's just such a good mindset to have, the growth mindset in anything, and it's just been so present. I remember my first tournament I ever hosted. I decided to book a large gymnasium in the middle of July with these giant windows and
Yep.
no air conditioning,
Yeah.
and people like nicknamed the
Yeah.
tournament. They were like, "This is the oven." That's what this is called. And so that was something. But you better believe the next one had air conditioning.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so yeah, it's always about learning. And so yeah, you've had a great career thus far. Looking to the future with esports as a whole, is there anything you see with esports that you think people are missing right now, or is there anything you think people are getting wrong? And what do you think esports is really getting right at the moment?
Yeah. Perhaps I start with what I think people might be getting wrong.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Um, this is not something I can necessarily take credit for. It's
Yeah.
some conversation that I've had with my like mentors in the space, um, and I think that it comes down to licensing, which is very timely at this point in the year, as we've just seen Nintendo come down on the big house, which is
Oh,
super tragic.
free melee, dude.
Free melee. Um, I think that people seem to forget or not consider how big of a deal licensing is. And if you don't
Yeah.
have that licensing, or for some reason do the developer wrong, or they don't like what you're doing, they have full control to just shut you down.
Yep.
And especially coming from a world of esports and gaming, where like you just do whatever the hell you wanted and not worry about anything, to working for a company that actually has to make sure they're not in breach of anything or protecting themselves legally. Um, you know, it's pretty sketchy. There's a lot of people out there that are doing things without licensing, putting themselves at risk. Not saying that this is what the big house did at all, but there's you can
Sure.
look anywhere and see any brand
Yeah.
running a Call of Duty tournament or whatever, and not having the proper backing. And as these leagues have pushed into franchising and whatever the future holds, those brands that are paying money to be involved with those games, if you have something that's going on in their backyard, or you're not paying for it, you don't have the licensing, um, they have to protect their assets and their
Yeah.
investments. And I think that it's just something that people need to be more aware of, is that it's not a free for all. The developers have complete control,
Yeah.
and it might be the way that things are going in the future, where licensing becomes a lot more strict, and a lot of businesses, or whatever, might be in trouble because of that.
Yeah, man, that's wild. I feel like you just introduced me to something I had never thought about.
It's
I
pretty spicy for sure. I think there's also, not just on the licensing, but also the legality of it's different everywhere you are, even in
Yep.
Canada. But thinking about like gambling, paying money at a chance to win money, right? If you go to a tournament and you are going somewhere that hasn't filled out the right paperwork for an event like that, it's
Yeah.
could be technically illegal. Could be some bad times. So yeah, just kind of a different lens that I've had on things the last couple of years.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. That's so crazy. It's like just bubbling right below the surface, and it's starting to come up slowly but surely. So we'll have to keep an eye on that moving forward. But what do you think?
Yeah.
So what do you think esports is getting right, and what do you think people can like look to in the future? What do you think is making it fun and making the longevity of titles or making the user experience better? What do you think is happening right now with gaming that you think is going really, really good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love everything that the gaming industry is doing right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
there's so many things that I could point at and say this is freaking awesome. Um, I think that I could talk about like the actual, games that are coming out and how I wish,
Yeah,
things were more like WoW Classic than they are like Shadowlands, which is out today.
yeah,
Um, but I think, perhaps the way to look at it is around how brands are getting involved. So maybe the good things that brands are doing in the space, or sponsors, or people that are trying to run these events. Um, I think we've come from a point where just a couple of years ago, people really had no idea what to do, how to get involved, how to support, how to be credible in the space, and not just piss a bunch of people off. Because there's tons of examples of people that have just come in and burned themselves
yeah,
almost immediately.
yep,
So I would say it's good to see that these brands are learning that you need to either start from the bottom, build like a grassroots community, or um, just support where your player base is coming from, where the casuals are coming in, where those that are just there to have fun with their friends, like that's the lifeblood of anything and everything that's going on. Because if you don't have those people, they're not watching, they're not playing the game, they're not making it exciting. You don't have noobs to feed off of.
yeah,
You need your players that are drowning in pools.
yeah,
Um, so I think just the thought of how brands are coming in and just being more conscious about their impact on the space, where they fit into the ecosystem. Um, I love to see them just doing a lot more than you know writing a check and putting it on top
sure,
of a tournament or a streamer or whatever it might be.
yeah.
So um, yeah, I think that's fair. As well as like the Wendy's memes on Twitter. That's hot. I love that.
Of course. No, that's great. Yeah, I like what you said about like the people drowning in pools.
Yeah.
More recently, I've been a big proponent, and I wish I had done this when I was running a weekly here in Tennessee. I've been a big proponent of like running like more Swiss and round robin because
Hmm.
that's the thing. There's all
Totally.
these people that are like, I mean, I feel like there's some people that go say 0 and 2 that are just like as passionate, if not more, than some of these people that are making it more into bracket, and
They're
they
hungry
just
for sure.
yeah, they just want to play. And so
Yeah.
I think you can get a lot more engagement with those people if you're like, hey, if you sign up, you're not going to go 0 and 2 or 0 and 1 and you're done. Like you're guaranteed like 4 to 6 matches or
Yeah.
something like that. And I think, yeah,
In the
go ahead.
same vein too, I think like gaming as a whole is shift from being super ultra competitive. People still complain about that. Like people have like figured out the game, or like there's no fun anymore because you have to play super seriously. Um, but I think as long as you're able to have these events be catering to all different skill levels, people that maybe can walk away with something from coming to the event, even if it's not cash, but it's like some sort of merch or swag or
Yes.
something from the game itself, like that's super cool and a great way to build a community. And I think there's plenty of examples of people that are doing that really well these days.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, I always remember like, if I go to like a sporting event and I get a T-shirt out of a T-shirt cannon, I'm
hell
gonna
yeah.
remember that T-shirt.
Yeah, man.
Every time I wear it, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, it's really cool seeing how people are making things impactful, and I'm also really excited. I feel like every year since like I don't know, 2016, there's been like a few big things that have kind of catapulted esports back into the
Mm.
mainstream, and people are like hearing about it more. There's like, oh, there's this ninja guy. There's Fortnite,
Yeah,
and then maybe like there's a big tournament with a prize pool, and
yeah.
so now it's becoming more household, and so it's been weird because then COVID hit, and
Mm.
luckily gaming is like so easily translatable to go online, and that's something I always talk about. Like with being an event planner, I'm like, if I were an event planner in like, I don't know, like weddings or like meetings,
Yeah,
oh, that would have been really tough. But luckily, we have the ability to be like, okay, we're just doing an online tournament, and
yeah.
so I'm super excited to see what happens, kind of as the world returns back to normal post COVID, because I mean, I feel like people are at this point, it's almost like just stacking ideas, and I think there's going to be a lot of cool things that happen coming out of this.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be you know, you know, I think it's the second Matrix where they're all partying before like at the end of the world where the robots come and fuck them all up. I feel like that might be the type of party that is going to be happening as soon as everyone comes out of COVID. So
Yeah.
LAN parties are going to be hype. Um, no, for sure. I think it's going to be a lot of fun just to have, it's like these events can be built around people's enjoyment just to come see their friends, as we all know, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to be bigger and better when we get back. That's what I hope.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Okay, so to wrap it all up, you've had a lot of a great career, um, a lot of impactful roles. What would you say if you were talking to someone who was like, I want to be where this guy is? He's done so much. He knows his stuff. How can I get to that point? That seems like so daunting. What would you say to that person? What lessons have you learned? What mistakes have you made? What would you pass on to them?
I would say the number one thing to do is just be yourself, which sounds super corny, but I think that because we see so many people that are coming from the world of gaming that are, people that are coming to the world of gaming from a non-gaming background, I think that there's a lot of people talking the talk and don't necessarily have the passion that gamers might have,
Yeah.
that we can kind of identify in each other right away. Like one of the beautiful things about gaming is like I could talk to you about playing Ice Climbers for 6 hours, or
Yeah.
if you met anyone in the world who played the same WoW character as you did, you both played Hunter or whatever, you could talk
Yeah.
about that forever, right?
Sure.
And I think those types of qualities are really endearing, and make you want to actually keep working with that person.
Yeah.
Like if you connect in a real way and it's not just business, whatever, I think when you're working your way up into like the more corporate world, um, making sure that you're staying like authentic and, being a good person, not being scummy, because there are a lot of, shitty stories, excuse me, out there.
Yeah.
Um, I think those are really big. Definitely it can be hard, but like make connections with people, network. It's important just to like support people, they support you, like everything is kind of going around in a circle. Another great thing that I heard before was instead of trying to get the biggest piece of the pie, try and grow the pie as a whole. um,
That's good.
I think that's like just makes total sense. When I heard that, it kind of like shifted my mindset and how we should be approaching this whole thing. And then just do stuff. That's
Do
like
stuff.
the biggest thing is like just do something,
Yeah.
even if it's not the perfect answer or idea right away. You just gotta start doing stuff, and something might happen that is a great opportunity. Something might happen that sucks, but you learn from. You might meet somebody who 3 years down the line can give you an opportunity. Whatever, who knows?
Yeah.
Just get out of your comfort zone and try and make shit happen.
I love that. That's fantastic. And it sounds like that was, I mean, those happened a lot in your story. A lot of it was, hey, let me just try something. Let
Yeah,
me do what I like. I
yeah.
like this League of Legends thing. Let me pour my heart into it, and it gave right back to you. Um,
100%. For sure, I super got lucky. Like Wild Turtle didn't have to hit us up or whatever,
yeah.
but we were so down to do it, and like we had examples of things we had done before. It was kind of just like, yeah, if you can, like, if this works for you, we'll make it happen, and it'll be
Yeah.
sweet. So, yeah, just being ready to go,
D-
like when
yeah.
the opportunity arises, you're ready to go.
Dude, you're exactly right with that. Like you say you got lucky, and I think there's luck in everybody's story. It's like, I mean, what's the
For sure.
thing? It's like luck is like preparation meeting opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's just so present in my life as well. It's like, I mean, I've had situations where like I met someone and then like I just didn't hear from them, and then a year later they're like, "Hey, like fly to Boston this weekend.
For
We need
sure.
you." And then that turns into something, and then it's just like it's crazy how stuff can work. But I always like my biggest thing is like the thousand darts method. If you just like
Yeah.
keep shooting your shot, throw those darts, like something's gonna hit, and you just got to keep going with it.
And you're learning too, right? Like
Yeah,
every failed opportunity or adventure you're taking, like
yeah,
you're just learning so much, not only about what it is you're doing, but also yourself and like how you can best work, things you need to work on, things that you're really good
sure.
at that you don't need to worry so much about, that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that sounds great. Lastly, any shout outs before you go? You want to say like hi to mom or anything?
Shout outs to my boy Dean, long time best bud for life.
Legend.
And he was a little bit offended that you haven't booked a podcast with him yet. So I'll give a little shout out to Dino.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jackson, for coming on today. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for having me, man.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, we'll see you all next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and hopefully I see you soon, post
Yes,
COVID.
yes. Come to Nashville, or I'll come to Toronto. We'll do both.
Okay.